The trade deadline is fast approaching, and you know what? There are quite a few teams out there that need to make some pretty big moves very soon.
If I had Aaron Rodgers in this roster and this receiving core, I would keep Aaron happy. Get Chase Claypool.
The NFL Trade Deadline is an exciting time for all 32 teams, regardless of where they are in the standings. With all that said, here are deals that need to happen before the 2022 NFL Trade Deadline. Packers go all in and land Chase Claypool. The Green Bay Packers' struggles on offense have been well documented. They surprisingly didn't take a wide receiver in round one after trading Davante Adams, and the front office's big free agent splash at the position was bringing in the oft-injured speedster Sammy Watkins. Green Bay just handed Aaron Rodgers a lucrative extension, meaning that they are firmly in win-now mode. That means GM Brian Gutekunst has to be aggressive and willing to deal away some picks for immediate help. And right now, receiver is where Green Bay needs help the most. Pittsburgh Steelers wideout Chase Claypool has been mentioned in trade rumors. He's a free agent after the 2023 season, and the Steelers already have two young stud wide receivers in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Given how the Steelers are at drafting receivers in middle to late rounds, wouldn't it make sense to trade Claypool and trust your savvy front office to replace him in the 2023 draft? Claypool surpassed the 50-catch and 800-yard marks for the Steelers in 2020 and 2021. He would undoubtedly have 1,000-yard potential in Green Bay. His speed and ability to stretch the field is exactly what the Packers need. So how about Claypool for the price of, say, 3rd and 4th round draft picks? Pittsburgh gets extra picks to accommodate their rebuild, and Green Bay gets immediate help for their second half playoff push. Ravens bolster front seven and snag Roquan Smith. The Chicago Bears are in full rebuilding mode and don't seem too keen on paying Roquan Smith what he's actually worth, as evidenced by the latter's trade request earlier this offseason. Chicago needs all the draft capital they can get to fix a flawed roster, and Smith is their best trade chip right now. The do-it-all linebacker once again finds himself among the NFL's leaders in tackles. He's a machine all over the field as a pass rusher and run stopper, and he's a playmaker in coverage when needed. Smith would perfectly fit the mold of the Baltimore Ravens defense. They haven't replaced Matt Judon's sack production, and more help in the front seven is needed to accommodate aging veterans Calais Campbell, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Justin Houston. Baltimore is in win-now mode with Lamar Jackson. One more game-wrecking player on defense, specifically in the front seven, could help them compete with the Chiefs and Bills in the AFC. Getting Smith for 2 or 3 draft picks makes perfect sense if you're GM Eric DeCosta. And if he plays well, who says you can't extend him? Go get your man, Baltimore. Mike Gesicki stays in Florida and heads to Tampa Bay. It turns out the Miami Dolphins knew what they were doing by not extending Mike Gesicki, who has absolutely struggled in the new-look offense under first-year head coach Mike McDaniels. After 2 straight 700-yard seasons, Gesicki has seen his production drop notably in 2022. The reason is obvious. Tua Tagovailoa is mostly looking at Jalen Waddle and newcomer Tyreek Hill. Miami may as well trade Gesicki rather than lose him for nothing in free agency, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could use a tight end of his caliber. The retirement of Rob Gronkowski has left a gaping hole in the offense, and Tom Brady needs a reliable third down security blanket and effective red zone weapon. Gesicki's trade value has got to be awfully low at this point, and the Bucs have to stay aggressive with Brady likely retiring after this year. So how about taking on Gesicki in exchange for something like a 5th or 6th round pick? Miami can move forward with their other weapons, and Tampa finds a potential gem to help their inconsistent offense. William Jackson III returns to Cincy. Jackson was one of the top free agents of the 2021 class, but let's just say his decision to leave Cincinnati for Washington hasn't really worked out well for anybody. Jackson's production in DC has been awful. The Commanders have another bad contract on their hands, and the Bengals still need an above-average corner to match up with the other top pass catchers in the AFC. Jackson was solid in his final season with the Bengals in 2022. Pro Football Focus graded him at 71.4, and according to Pro Football Reference, Jackson only allowed a 51.4 completion percentage and an 88.2 passer rating when targeted. With the Commanders currently sitting in last place in the NFC East, they may as well ditch Jackson's contract and clear the money. And the Bengals, who find themselves in Super Bowl contention, should like the idea of reuniting with their former #1 corner. Cincy can probably get him for something as low as a 6th or even 7th round pick. They just have to trust that he'll regain his swagger in Lou Anarumo's defense. This is a trade that is very logical for both teams, and of course for Jackson. Cowboys get a new potential WR2 in Kendrick Bourne. The New England Patriots got some real good value out of their 2021 free agent shopping spree, namely from Matthew Judon and Hunter Henry. Kendrick Bourne also had a career year for the Patriots in 2021, but his production has dropped noticeably this season. Bourne has been the subject of trade whispers out of Foxborough, and Bill Belichick shouldn't be shy to clear out his contract and free up some more playing time for his other receivers. Bourne is shifty and explosive with the ball in his hands. He needs the right system to flourish, though, and the Dallas Cowboys' pass-happy offense could really use him. The passing game relies too much on CeeDee Lamb, and both Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz have played well below expectations in 2022. The Cowboys could easily land Bourne for a late-round pick. Or maybe they send a depth player to the Patriots and take on Bourne as a part of the deal. Either way, the speedy wideout would be an excellent third-down option for Dak Prescott, while also helping to take some of the pressure off of Lamb. Elijah Moore flies from the Jets to the Falcons. Despite a surprisingly strong start to the season, the New York Jets haven't gotten much out of 2021 second-rounder Elijah Moore. The number 34 pick of last year's draft simply hasn't found his game with the Jets, who have relied on rookie Garrett Wilson and veteran Corey Davis in the passing game. Moore has requested a trade from the Jets, and GM Joe Douglas shouldn't hesitate to cut ties with him. The Atlanta Falcons make perfect sense for Moore here. They surprisingly find themselves in the running for the NFC South thanks to underwhelming performances by the Bucs and New Orleans Saints. Atlanta found its new top wideout in Drake London at the draft, and tight end Kyle Pitts will be a superstar for years to come. Calvin Ridley is suspended and will be a goner after this year, however, so why not try to get a potential number 2 receiver and more at the deadline? Head coach Arthur Smith found a way to unlock guys like Ryan Tannehill and Cordarrelle Patterson. Perhaps he could help Moore reach his potential once and for all in an offense that isn't lacking in playmakers. It could cost Atlanta a day 2 pick or even a roster player to get Moore, but we'd say the risk is well worth it. I mean, who knows? Maybe Moore breaks out and leads you to a stunning division crown. Rams shore up RB woes and land Josh Jacobs. The Las Vegas Raiders should be regretting their decision to not pick the 5th-year option on Josh Jacobs' rookie deal. The Alabama product is on pace for his best season yet, and if the Raiders weren't willing to pay Jacobs before, can we really think they'd be happy to pay him now with his stock increasing significantly? We have our doubts. Plus, the Raiders should be smart about this and look at how many lucrative running back contracts have backfired. I mean, just ask the Cowboys how they're feeling about Zeke's monster contract right about now, or how the Panthers felt about Christian McCaffrey's huge cap hit. Speaking of Run CMC, the Rams were reportedly in the running for his services before the rival San Francisco 49ers scooped him up. So, why not settle on the next best option in Jacobs? Yes, the Rams offense has been sluggish this year, but they have to stay in win-now mode with Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, and Jalen Ramsey in their primes. The run game has been a mess in 2022, but Jacobs would instantly upgrade the unit and make LA's offense more balanced. Les Snead himself knows that you don't need draft picks to win, so even if the price for Jacobs is high, why not just go for it? Jacobs is a star, and if he plays well for you, who says you can't extend him in the offseason? The Raiders would be wise to get something for Jacobs rather than lose him for nothing in 2023 free agency, and no team could use Jacobs more right now than the Rams. Chargers roll the dice on Kenny Golladay. The Los Angeles Chargers are in the AFC playoff race, but it's hard to see them getting by without making a big splash or two ahead of the deadline. The defense is a mess with Joey Bosa sidelined for starters, and after Keenan Allen returned in Week 7, Justin Herbert lost his other star wideout in Mike Williams for multiple weeks. The injury bug has hit the Chargers hard, but GM Tom Telesco can repair some of that lost production by making a simple phone call to the New York Giants. The G-Man can't wait to get rid of that disastrous Kenny Golladay contract. The former Detroit Lions star hasn't been a fit in New York whatsoever, but we saw what he can do in Motor City. Give the man a top 10 QB and he may return to being the star he once was, especially in the red zone. New York would probably eat some of the money and trade Golladay for the lowest price possible. We're talking a 7th round pick. If you're the Chargers, you would have to be intrigued by a healthy receiving core that would consist of Allen, Golladay, and Williams. Telesco cannot afford to waste any more years while Herbert's still on his rookie contract. So take the chance on Golladay and see what he can do with an elite QB feeding him the ball. Saints try to unlock Clelin Ferrell. The 2-time national champion at Clemson was a big-time reach when the Raiders took him 4th overall in 2019. Well, fast forward 3 years later, and yeah, Ferrell hasn't exactly produced a whole lot. The Raiders predictably declined the 5th-year option on Ferrell's deal. Remember, this current regime wasn't around when the Raiders drafted Ferrell, so they shouldn't be expected to stay committed to him through 2022. At the same time, though, he's still a former first-round pick, so you may as well get something for him, rather than just releasing him and losing him for nothing. The New Orleans Saints could use the extra depth on the defensive line, and perhaps their savvy, defensive-minded head coach, Dennis Allen, finds a way to unlock Ferrell's potential. He would be in a good spot with Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport, and Demario Davis supporting him along the front seven. A late-round pick in exchange for Ferrell works for both sides, especially when you consider how well the Raiders have drafted in the late rounds recently, as they really struck gold with guys like Max Crosby, Hunter Renfrow, and Nate Hobbs. Hopefully, he'd fare better in NOLA after falling out of favor in Vegas. But which other trade deadline blockbusters need to happen? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.